welcome back. Last time we worked on our Lights Out app, and we have everything here where we could click the About button, and it worked. In the next couple lessons, we're going to see what happens when we click the Change Number of Buttons button. We want it to go to another screen where we can change the number of buttons. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. We'll start off by adding some labels to strings. So these are going to be the button labels themselves here. So 3 buttons, 5 buttons, 7, and 9. So let's go ahead and do that. So in Eclipse, if you would, we'll go ahead and you can copy those from the slides if you like. Resources, layout, values, strings, and just paste them in there. Control-Shift-F to format them and save them there. Good start. So we're going to be making a new activity here. We'll call this one the Change Num Buttons activity. And we want the text to say that to change the number of buttons. So let's go ahead and do that. So back in my app here, we'll make a new other Android activity. Blank activity is fine. And we'll call this guy Change Num Buttons activity. The layout name looks fine. The title should be Change the Number of Buttons. And maybe we want those capitalized, or maybe not. Go ahead and finish that. Okay, up to you, the order in which you do things here. Can pause for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and blow away all the extra fragment stuff and menu stuff that it gives us, just like usual. So the fragment, the menu folder. And what I want to do is, for this guy, I want to set up the layout. So what's it going to look like here? So I think we'll use a relative layout for this one because I want to center my button group right here. This is something that is called a radio group, and we'll see that it's under form widgets. So we're going to add a radio group here with some radio buttons in it, and then I'll put a title that's above it. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so activity change num buttons XML. I'm going to go over here and delete the frame layout and instead put in a relative layout. Go to form widgets and look for the radio buttons, which are these guys right here. This radio group, center that in there. And we'll see that by default it gives us some radio buttons here. It's going to give us 3 of them. So we need a 4th one. So let's go ahead and take a look to see what we have here. All right, so I have an ID for the radio group. It turns out that I don't need an ID for that. Actually, that's not true. I am going to keep that guy here because I'm going to I need to put the text view above it, and so I need something to refer it to in the relative layout. So this looks okay so far. I will set the background of the whole thing so that my background color and my radio buttons, right? So what do I have here? So I'm going to call these radio 3, 5, 7, and 9, and so on. They start off checked by default, so I'm going to uncheck this, and I'll set it in code a little bit later on. And then the text, I can use my string here. So this is going to be radio label 3, all right, for this guy. And all the other ones are going to look something like that. So I'm going to find it a little bit easier to delete the 2 that they gave us and take the one that I made and copy it 3 more times, and then just update the 3s to 5s, 7s, and 9s. Let's make this a 9. Oops. Save it here, take a look. Looks pretty good. So I'm going to want text view above it. So I can, if I want, from my form widgets, I can grab a text view and center it and put it above with some number of pixels here. It doesn't matter exactly what I use, but then let's change that text view. So going back down here. So this is my my text view. I don't think I need an ID for that guy. What do we want to do? So it's going to be above the radio group. Looks good. Margin looks fine. The text is going to be the string here. And I think I'll use the change num buttons button. We'll change some things like the text size. I think 24 pixels will work nice for this. And let's change the color to be the text color and see how that looks. Looks pretty good. All right, what I want you to notice here is that radio buttons are really very similar to buttons themselves. We're going to need an ID on them so that we can capture them in code in a minute. And they have some text on them, right? So very, very similar. They just happen to live within a radio group. All right, there's the parameters if you didn't catch them as we created it. And there's the XML itself. All right, so let's go ahead and let's make the activity. You remember how we did this? We're going to make an intent and then start the activity with that intent. So going back to my code here. So back in my main activity, when they click the change num buttons button, all right, make an intent here. Maybe I call this one change intent or whatever I called on the slide here. So change num buttons intent if I want to be consistent. And that's a new intent with the context, which is this. And then my new activity here is change num buttons activity. And I want to pass the class that it's in. And then I'll call start activity from here. So many things that start with start activity, so it doesn't get them down very quickly. And I'll grab the change num buttons intent. And when I run it, it should launch the new guy there. Okay, so I launched it, and let's try it out here. So change number of buttons. If I click on it, give it a second, and then it brings up the other activity. Now, of course, these buttons right here, I don't have listeners for them, so they're kind of useless right now. But that's an easy thing to fix. I'm going to do it just like I do other kinds of listeners. So let's drag this guy out of the way and get to work on this. So in the change num buttons activity, right, I'm going to have to do things like capture the view and so on.